Okay, let's go to Jim. Hello, YMYW crew. My parents, 77, have an irrevocable trust, which is the beneficiary of my dad's TSP account. This is a pretax TSP. As the Roth was not available to him when he was working, the trust has been set up for the 8 grandchildren ranging from age 1 to 16. The trust is set up to pay at predetermined ages. My understanding that this is a discretionary trust. Additionally, my understanding is that this money will be taxed at the highest marginal trust tax rate after roughly $13,000 in income. Is this true? Besides converting the TSP to a Roth, what else can be done to minimize the taxes? Thank you, Jim. Okay, is Dad alive, or is he?
Yeah.
He's like my parents, 77, so I don't think he's deceased.
No, Dad's still around. And Dad could.
Why don't change the benefit?
convert.
But what? I wonder if he can change the beneficiary.
Sure.
But why would he name the benefit?
The reason he did the trust was because he didn't want the young kids
to spend the money.
To spend the money, which is fine. Now, it has to be the right kind of trust, which you can go into if you want.
I would change. Okay, so here's the issue now with trusts being the beneficiary of an IRA. Okay,
Yep.
So Jim's dad set up the account, and it's in the TSP, and he's like, okay, I got 8 grandchildren. I want the grandchildren to have the money in in my TSP account.
Sure.
Where I'm not going to spend it, and so it'll be a nice little inheritance for them.
Right.
But I'm sure in the trust he said, okay, well, Johnny, he doesn't get anything until age 25. Susie, you don't get anything until age 21 because you're a lot more responsible, and so on and so forth, right?
Right.
Because that's why you would set up a trust in the first place. It's just control of the overall cash at your passing.
Yeah, typically we don't recommend a trust would be a beneficiary, but this would be a case where it could make sense.
But I think it blows it up because now, you have an issue with the Secure Act because the money has to come out within 10 years.
Right.
Right?
True.
So then there's 2 different types of trust that you set up.
But it comes out to the trust, not to the individual.
But then it holds in trust.
It does. Right.
So if you hold in trust, you get trust tax rates.
Yeah, that's the problem.
The problem is that the thing is going to get forced down in 10 years. And so maybe he's got grandchildren, ages 1 through 8, or right? And maybe he wants to hold this thing in trust in perpetuity.
Right.
The money's going to come out of the retirement account and going to be taxed at trust tax rates because he's holding it in trust.
Correct.
Versus distributing it out to the kids. Make sense?
Yes, understand.
So it doesn't make any sense to have this type of trust in a retirement account because anything after $13,000, it's taxed at 37%.
That is
and the
correct.
grandkids' tax rate is 0.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. So perhaps a better choice would be an account where the parent, UTMA, I guess is the name, right? Unified something.
Uniform Transfer to Minors Act? Or Uniform Gift to Minors Act?
I don't know.
UTMA and UGMA?
Yeah. So that's where the parent and the child are on the account, and the child doesn't really have access till age 18.
Here's what Jim needs to tell his dad, is to find another asset that he can give the grandchildren. I don't know how big the TSP is, right? And I don't know what the inheritance is going to be, but trying to do this with a retirement account is not a good way to go. If he's got a home that you're going to sell, right? And then let's say his TSP is worth, I don't know, call it $500,000. Just making it up. 500,000 divided by 8 equals $62,000 per grandchild.
Sure.
Okay? So maybe he has another asset.
Like his house.
Or a brokerage account.
Or
whatever it is, right? And then maybe his house is worth $500,000. In the trust, then say, okay, we'll split that up at the sale of the house. The kids get this. Cash is now held in this trust. You can invest the money as you'd like, right? It's a lot easier to do it that way.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the reason is because the stretch IRA is
no longer
gone.
because everything is going to be distributed out.
Although the stretch IRA doesn't apply if you're under 18, so maybe it would work.
Maybe.
Thinking about that.
Yeah. I don't know. I would have to look at the provisions in the trust. Did he set it up as an IRA trust? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's
Because
a whole other point.
you got to look through, see through trust. There's a lot of things that you got to do with the trust, and it can work. But if you look now today, because of how the law changed, a trust, an irrevocable trust, holding things in trust from a retirement account,
There's problems.
there could be some issues. There's pros to it,
Sure.
right? You can control the money, and it's safe from creditors. And wasn't that one advisor's or that attorney's big deal?
Yes,
Like
it
it would
was.
just scare the hell out of you. It's like your kids are going to do this, and your money's going to be gone because they're going to get sued, and you're like, oh God, I got to get this
Here-
trust. How
yeah.
much is it? 30 grand?
He was pretty convincing.
Sounds cheap versus the 50 million I'm going to get sued
those
for.
lawsuits, right?
Are you prepared for retirement? Schedule a free financial assessment with an experienced financial professional right online at purefinancial.com.